Hello there, welcome back. This time I'm looking at a beautiful disaster, but I haven't done these for a while. Billion Dollar Brain, which is stars Michael Caine as Harry Palmer. It's the third in this series of Harry Palmer films. There was Ipcress File, A Funeral in Berlin, both of which were very well received, were very much a big thing in the 60s. They were the alternative to Bond in lots of ways because they were Michael Caine was a much more working class spy who never had the gadgets, who pretty much wore glasses, and he still had to do all the spy stuff, but with a much lower budget and then a department that didn't pay his people properly, sort of just like normal Britain then, you know. So the first two films were basically more realistic spy stories. I mean, they weren't completely realistic because you need to have a plot, and realism just tends to be a mess. But they tied the idea of realism with spy plots that didn't go too far. So the first one was trying to investigate what was going on in the spy world, and the second one with a plot revolving around it. And the second one was taking place in Berlin, and it was a bit more expanded, but it had a bit more action, but it still was tied and had a bit more glamour, but it was still tied to like Harry Palmer being a spy and not getting much respect from his superiors, and it just is a complicated situation. The third one, by the time we get the third one, and they'd very option a fourth film, they were kind of competing with Bond slightly, even though they were still low budget. Harry Saltzman, who did the Bond series as a producer, also produced these films. So in this time, they actually seemed to have the ambition to go for Bond as well, to go after Bond and go and, if not be the competitor, to actually be the alternatives, to be the other one, and decide to up the ante and be less realistic in the initial setup. So they've got like a mad a mad billionaire, mad science, mad everything in the second half of the film. So it goes from something influenced by John le Carre in the first half of the film to something that's influenced by late 60s Bond in the second half of the film, as well as some satire like they'd watched like Doctor Strangelove and Richard Lester films as well. So there was this weird mix of it went from one film to the other without any kind of pause, which caused a lot of problems for people because they couldn't understand what the hell had happened to this spy story that you were meant to pay attention to, and suddenly it was getting broader and broader and broader. So by the time you go into the second half, it became this explosion of, you know, just weirdness and over the top acting. Now, for lots of people, that was something to be appalled by, but for me, that made for a really fun film. This was a really fun film because the first half is enjoyable, and the second half is completely genuinely nuts. And I think a lot of the problems, it was directed by Ken Russell. He was brought in as a director for hire. They said, do this commercial film, and then it'll give you a chance to get your other films made. So he did it, and he hated the experience, and ultimately went off and did his own stuff, and he was fine. But so he get the blame for this mess, but it was actually more the script than him. I mean, he was trying to give life to a script that was very stop-start. It's one of those things where I don't think this film would have worked whoever directed it. I think it was stuck with a idea that didn't translate very well in the script. The script was one of those scripts that had its own little twists and turns, but the twists and turns were very obvious. Very quickly, you could understand where everything was going. So it wasn't really like you were watching thinking, I wonder who's doing this, I wonder who's doing that, I wonder what's here, I wonder what's there. Yeah, you kind of know where it's going. But it's done with a sense of fun, which is for some people takes away from what they wanted from the film. But for me, it just gives it a bit more oomph because the second half, narrative in the second half just drops dead. There's nothing basically when you get to reveal the villain time. which, if you're doing a more realistic spy story, you should hold that off to pretty much the end. And this one is 2/3 of the end. We find out who the villain is, and we get him ranting for most of the rest of the movie. So it's like the actual narrative beat is like a Bond beat. Suddenly we get the villain, let them rant, and let them have all their henchmen. And there's nothing much more you can do in narrative terms if you started off being a more realistic spy story. You've just killed people looking to these kind of films for twists and not being sure what's coming next. But in this one, it was really, the script was pretty weak because you just knew pretty much who everyone was before they started, what they were about, and even though some of the plotting was fun, we've been saying this is what they're actually doing, this is what they're actually doing, you kind of figured it out well before you get told it. It's pretty obvious what everyone's doing. And it's one of those films that the only reason it works in plot level is that the lead villain is a moron and he can't spot what's going on. So the first section of the film, the first half of the film is Michael Caine, they're trying to get him back into British intelligence. He's left. He doesn't want to go back. A friend of his, he's offered a job to deliver these eggs, deliver this package from Britain to Finland. He does it. He's going to get paid money. He's also curious what's going on. When he gets there, he realizes there's a lot more going on than he thought. There's a lot of duplicity. His own side, the British actually pull him back in and become spy again, and he has to follow this up to find out. There's this room in this building in Finland where they're getting orders from someone unknown through this box, through this computerized box, and it's a machine that seems to know everything before anyone knows anything. So they're trying to deal with that box, and it's like, who is this person behind it all? How scary is this person? So you watch the first half, even though you know roughly where we're going with the story, it adds a bit of mystery to it. It's like, what does this person actually want? Is there a big twist behind the scenes that I can't see coming? There's that. But it keeps it going for a while, and there's this whole thing. Carl Malden plays his pal who brings him in and offers him a lot of money to do this job. And it's all set up that this is a really complicated system that's going to change the world as we know it. And that's why the British want to find out what's going on. And at some point, Palmer goes to Latvia and helps the resistance fighters, and turns out there's hardly any. And there's fast things there. We're dealing also with the communists who run the place. He knows one of them from Funeral in Berlin, which is like, the thing is, even though they're enemies, they like each other. And it's like, well, we're enemies technically, but there's other enemies we both don't like. And all this is set up nicely. It's like nothing's too complicated. The scenes are fun. Ken Russell is a good choice of director for bringing out fun with some actors, having a good visual look, keeping it interesting and paced up. It's just when you get to the second half, when Kane finally is forces Malden to take him to the boss so he can meet the boss. You find the boss a moron, and then the film just drops dead. It just drops dead completely as a thriller narrative. Then it just is gone because they're going full Dr. Strangelove here. Like, that's over the top performance played by Ed Begley, who's having a ball. I'm really enjoying what we watch. Just that there's no narrative thrust anymore. It turns out he's spent all his money in this massive, complicated computer that can see it can collate a lot of information, see what other people are doing, but also it can be manipulated with other people who are hiding information, can put other information into it. So it's trying to collate bad information. It turns out Carl Malden's doing that a lot because he's actually running a con on the Texas billionaire to keep on having paid for agents who don't exist. So he keeps the payroll. And And this guy's ready to go and invade Latvia to liberate Latvia when no one wants liberated and almost start World War III, all because Malden's making a fool of him. The problem with that is there was a lot of threat in the first half of who's beyond the voice, and now we just find everyone's an idiot. The threat is this damage going to cause World War III, but you know it's not going to happen because he will stop him somehow. And it just becomes this barrage of like and fun coming up with Ken Russell as he's playing up the high tech stuff of the big computerized machine, which is somehow really smart but doesn't spot an obvious con. That just doesn't make any sense. But all the stuff that Ken Russell does, including like it's because it takes place in Texas. This section, there's some fun stuff about driving through Texas and all these oil things, and it's polluting the air, and it's like civilization, all the rest of it, and a lot of wit involved with that, and there's a lot of visual flair with Russell's showing all these crazy Texans who think they're God on their side, and Ed Begley saying how much he loves the country, loves it more than anyone else ever could, and he hates the communists, and all that stuff's really enjoyable, but it's trying to hide the fact there's no plot in the second half of the film. It's just like, we're going to invade Latvia, and that's it. And eventually they go and invade Latvia, and they get easily defeated by the Russians who were waiting for them, and they try and cross this frozen river, this frozen lake into Latvia, and the Russians just bomb the lake, and all the stuff sinks. And so it's basically the plot is good start, then halfway through the plot falls apart. But Russell's trying to keep it working the whole way through. Michael Caine's still having fun with the character. Carl Malden's having some fun with his character. Ed Begley's chewing scenery. Like there's a lot of good actors here who are enjoying. There's a lot of smaller actors in the background who are having fun. It's just it's a well-made film, but the script's bloody awful, and it's it's unfair that Ken Russell got the blame, because he's the thing that kept it afloat. He kept us afloat. I mean, he shot the first half like a normal thriller. He didn't do anything crazy. He showed how professional he could be, and he does it, and it's very pleasurable to watch. There's a lot of nice shots in Finland of all the ice and all the atmosphere of the whole thing. He does it really well. And then when the plot runs out, he does what he can visually to keep it going. So this mismatch, though, makes it really enjoyable, even though it makes it not work as a film. But the Bond films away with that all the time. They tend to have the final thirds of just a lot of action when there's not much going on. They get away with it. This film didn't get away with it. This film was like, what the hell's going on? This is stupid. It's because it was so focused on reality to start with, that when they split off into megalomaniac territory, everyone's minds were on that doesn't make sense. And Bond, you can excuse it because Bond's about the actual explosions and the special effects. And this one is no, you're selling as a realistic thriller, and now you're just making bollocks of it all. But it's still really enjoyable because it's so weird. It's so weird. I mean, it's really the fault of the producer and the writer. They just this doesn't work. This really doesn't work. We need to think of something fascinating for the second half, and they don't have it. And it's just a very strange, but weirdly enjoyable film. Partially because of its flaws, partially because of Ken Russell realizing, oh, I'm deep shit now. I need to actually just be really inventive of how I shoot this, just to keep it going and try and keep the atmosphere up and try and keep the momentum up as much as possible. Try and make the actors funny, make the actors interesting, to try and keep everyone's mind away from the plot that doesn't work. So it's really interesting. And I don't think there's many films like it. I mean, films tend to go one way or the other. They don't try and do both in one film, and this film does that. It's not really a full success, but it is fascinating. It's really fascinating. So that's why I am giving it go watch this. This is really odd, but you're not going to forget it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be back soon I'll be covering a film that really doesn't work. from this era as well. So I'll see you soon. Bye.